Alright, hey, how y'all doing? How y'all doing, Giovanni? Hope y'all doing well. Alright, so today wanted to come in and talk about important subject, biblical subject that it's not talked often about in the church, and that subject is judgment. Judgment, the judgment of the Most High Yah. We know that everyone will be judged. Some of us, judgment have already come to us in our lifetime. We know that we will be judged, everyone, including Israel and the nations, and that also some of us will be judges in the kingdom, and will judge even angels. Hallelujah. So, judgment. There are three important parts, or three important things, should I say, about judgment to help us understand judgment according to the Most High Yah. So number one is, what does the word says? What does the law says on the subject? What does the Most High says? Number one, first and foremost. Number two, how have we been towards other people in terms of judgment? Have we been strict, unmerciful, straight off with their heads, impatient, harsh judge towards other people? Or have we been long-suffering, patient, merciful in judgment towards other people? That will shape judgment. That is an important part of judgment, because the word says, with the amount of measure that you meet in judgment, the same measure will be met against you, for you. So, second part, really important. And also, third point is, how does someone function in judgment once judgment comes to them? Once they move on in life in judgment, how does a person function? How does someone respond? How are they in that judgment? So I think these are three important things that we need to understand in order to understand judgment, that it will help us go into judgment when the time comes, and also for some of us to be judged. Also, it's these points are really important to understand, and those that are in authority as judges, that make judgment in this life, whether it's pastors, leaders, deacons, they understand, they know what the word says on the subject. So, when we read the word in the book of Samuel, we can read about a lot about judgment, about the kings. There's two kings, right? King Saul and King David, and we can read a lot about their functions, about these 3 points I'm making in judgment, right? If we look at Saul, for example, we know that Saul has been judged a few times. One of that judgment was that one time when the Most High told King Saul that he was going to go to war with the Amalekites, he told him that you will entirely destroy this nation completely, man, woman, children, beast, everything. And that was because this nation, it was unjust and wicked against the people of Israel, and has done great wickedness and evil to them. So when the Most High was time to put this nation into Saul's hand, King Saul's hand, he told them, you don't leave nothing, you destroy that nation completely. So this is an example of a commandment that is being given by the Most High Yah. So when the time comes that Saul goes to war, and he goes and kill all these people, what he's done and what the people have done is that he spared the king. He spared the king, and he spared the best of the loot, contrary to what the Most High Yah asked and told him to do, to destroy everything, right? So what that has done is that brought him into a judgment, because that was a rebellion against what the Most High Yah asked him or told him or commanded him to do. So the prophet Samuel, he comes and brings a judgment towards King Saul, right? And he says, immediately, you see the prophet, which is a judge, the mouthpiece of Yah. He tells him that because he's been disobedient, that the Most High is going to replace him. He's going to find another king, a different king, and that his kingdom will be stripped away from him. So right there, when you read the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel, you can, and I encourage you to go and read it for yourself, right, to see exactly what is being said, what is being done. So King Saul, immediately you see that he starts justifying, instead of being humble and accepting the error of his ways, he kind of says, well, man, the people, they made me do it, and I've been influenced. And so you see that eventually he comes to grips with his rebellion, and he accepts it. But you see that there's a whole lot of justifying, a whole lot of it. So then you see him moving on, further down. You see King Saul, after being in judgment, so judgment coming to him, we're going to see how he functions in that judgment, right? Because the Most High, he kind of separated away himself from him, in the sense that he wasn't answering him anymore, right? He wasn't answering him by prophet or by dreams or by Urim, right? So what Saul then goes to do, the way he responds to that, is that because he's not getting any answers from the Most High, then he goes and turns to a medium, a witch, like a sorcerer, to consult the dead for answers, because he's about to get, he's in war there, and he's kind of like about, pressure is starting to come in from surrounding armies and whatnot, and his life is in danger, right? So what he does, and that's an important thing, we see how he's functioning there in judgment. Instead of, waiting on Yah and trusting in him, because the Most High, he looks at everything. He looks at everything. He looks at how we function in judgment, and all that. And, he does say that, and it is a fact that his mercies are tender mercies, and his compassion, it's infinite, and it renews every day. And like he says, all he wants for his people is just to turn from their wicked ways and seek him and follow him wholeheartedly, with all their mind, souls, and being, so that he can heal their land, right? So in other terms, as much as he can put a man in captivity, as much as he can abase and make him low, he can turn their captivity from them. He can elevate and exalt somebody. So but what Saul does, though, in his wickedness, is that he goes against the command. So his function in judgment, he goes and consult with this medium, which is against Torah. It's completely against the law. So then that's what, the Most High, he sees that, and it's not pleasing to him, because he doesn't want, what he seeks is obedience, right? That's what he wants, even when we are brought low. Hallelujah. So I think that's an important thing to look at. How does somebody function in judgment? Then you can see another good example when you look at King David. At one time, we're still in the books of Samuel. At one time, King David wanted to be, Saul wanted to kill the king, and he wanted his life, and he was after him to kill him and destroy King David. There was a time when King David, it was in his hand, it was in his power to actually save his life from the one that wanted him dead, King Saul, and he could have actually killed and put the knife and put the sword to King Saul. And when you read the account, it tells us that King David, he spared King Saul while the Most High put him in his hand, the power to kill him. He actually spared King Saul. And, he shows him, the king, he says, look, I could have killed you right there and now. I could have saved my life. But I didn't do it because you're the king. And out of the fear of the Most High, I'm not putting my hands on the anointed. And so King Saul, when you read the account, he sees how good the man, King David, that he wanted to kill actually was. And he says, man, you actually returned good for evil. Who does that? Who spares somebody that wants somebody's life? Kill him. And that's the exact thing that Jesus was giving us. That's the best example when Jesus said, bless your enemies, those who persecute you, those who curse you. That is the best, perfect example. And I believe that worked in the favor of David later on, because it has to do about judgment. How do we meet others with judgment? Are we compassionate, or are we harsh judges? Are we long-suffering, or are we seeking our own vengeance? And so later on, you can see now that David is going to enter into judgment. Judgment is going to come to him when he takes Bathsheba, Uriah's wife, the Hittite, and he kills the man too. He kills Uriah. He sent him to the battlefront in order for him to perish. So then the prophet comes to David. Now look at how David functions in judgment. Now, Prophet Samuel, he tells him, look, you killed the man, you took the man's wife, that's adultery. And immediately David, he recognized, he didn't try to justify. He didn't try to say, but this, but that, but the man, the woman, the people. He immediately recognized, he humbled himself, he accepted judgment, right? And the way he functioned in judgment, the judgment was that the prophet said, you are not going to die for this. The Most High forgave you. And I submit to you, I personally believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I personally believe that the reason that, because the law, when we read the Torah, it says, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And whatever, if a man was guilty of murdering somebody, the payment, the judgment was that they were to be put to death themselves. But David was spared. He was not put to death, even though he did kill Uriah the Hittite. He murdered him. And I believe that's because David was merciful to King Saul. And I think that's what saved David's hide for that judgment. But nonetheless, Most High said the judgment for that is that the child coming from Bathsheba, the woman you took for adultery, is going to die. And so let's look at David in judgment, right? What does he do? He prays, he fasts, he mourns. In other sense, he's trying to change the course of destiny in the judgment so that the Most High, perhaps through his fasting, through his prayer, through his humility, perhaps he can spare the child's life, right? Because he understands the tender mercies of Yah. But nonetheless, the child ends up being taken, dying from sickness. But that's just to tell us how the King David, how he was righteous in judgment, his function in judgment. He didn't bring the child to a witch doctor. He didn't bring them to the, to try to get healed by all these sorceries and spells and pharmacy stuff, and you know what I'm saying? So that is, being righteous in judgment. And so we see, like, from these two different kings, and King David, like, he always always tried to remain in the good stead of Yah regardless. He was never pissed at the Most High. He never despised him. He never, was never angry towards him, even in judgment, even when David, was facing all these afflictions. So those are really good examples, man. I think we gotta look at the examples. I think it tells us a lot, especially when we read about these two kings, about judgment. These three facets I'm talking about. So judgment according to what the Most High says, what the law have to say. How are we in judgment toward other people? What kind of measure do we meet judgment with? And 3, how do we function in judgment? All right, hope that blesses y'all. I wish you a great day. Shalom, shalom.